photographs are part of a wider series that I was producing in Russia between 2004 and 2005. I spent that year travelling from the far east of Russia back to Moscow during the course of the year. And I was really looking at trying to produce a more contemporary body of work, kind of documenting modern Russia 15 years after the fall of communism. While I was travelling, I came across this particular set of, or this scene where in northern Russia, in the polar region near Murmansk, between mid-December and mid-January, there's a thing called Polyarnye Nochi, which is the Russian for polar nights. And this is basically a period of time where between mid-December and mid-January, the sun never comes above the horizon. So you have very few hours of daylight, and when there is daylight, it's very limited, and it's almost a kind of feeling of perpetual dusk. I became particularly fascinated by how this meteorological effect influenced or kind of changed the whole kind of atmosphere of the photographs. And so I decided to spend the next 10 days really concentrating on trying to create this series of photographs which documented this landscape around northern Russia, around the Kola Peninsula, which is a very kind of man-made area, and explore this, the extremes of the temperature alongside the extremes of trying to survive and live in this particular part of northern Russia. So the photographs were somewhat inspired by Russian cinema. I've been a kind of fan of films like Andrei Rublev and Mirror by Tarkovsky. But in particular, there was one film that came out in early 2004 called The Return. And this film was looking at a family in contemporary Russia, but the whole film had this grey-blue filter over it. And I was fascinated by trying to kind of mimic this similar filmic effect, if you like, across my photographs, and in some ways try and create a series of photographs that felt like a movie, like a kind of road trip, and using this consistent lighting technique kind of helped me do that. Producing this work was quite challenging, not just because of the temperatures, which got down to about -30 in some instances, so actually using the equipment became quite challenging, but also because this area of northern Russia, there are a lot of significant military bases around Murmansk, and so it's actually quite a difficult place to work, and there's a lot of suspicion about me working as a photographer around this area. And actually in a couple of instances I was detained by the FSB, which is the new version of the Russian KGB. So while on the one hand these photographs are about man's ingenuity in the face of populating these incredibly inhospitable areas, on the other hand they're exploring how the Russian winter, which throughout Russian painting and literature has been idolized and kind of memorialized in some ways, is able to beautify and transform this otherwise brutal landscape into something which is actually quite beautiful.